Hello and welcome to the broadcast. So, look, it's a bit later today than I normally do, and the reason for that is because I was out and about this afternoon. Now, let me just double check something. I just want to check that we are actually um, going live here. So, yeah, I wanted to do basically like another Q&A session. And so if you've got questions, and I hope you've got some questions prepared, then please do stick them into the chat. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about um, what somebody that has. Sorry about that, just some stuff out. Okay, right. So listen, um, put your questions in the chat, anything at all about dating, charisma, mindset, bit of body language, whatever it is you want to talk about. Okay, I'm open to anything. I'm doing these live streams this week because I wanted to get back on the live stream or back in the live stream saddle, if you like. But also, Charisma and Dating Academy, my premier course about charisma, dating, how to become that natural dude, how to become that top tier guy who just walks into the bar and just pulls women to him without really having to make any effort because he's got that vibe. That launches again on Friday, which is the 7th of August. And you've got 5 days, 7th of August until Monday, the 11th of August, to enroll on that course. So there'll be more details on that coming out very soon on this channel. And also, guys, get on my free email list, right? I send out a free email every day, Monday to Friday. Give or take the odd day here and there when I'm out and about. But yeah, it's a free resource. It's all about game. It's all about dating, etc., etc. The link is below, so do click that link and get on that free email list because there'll be more information coming through about Charisma and Dating Academy, plus other goodies and stuff on that this week very soon. In fact, get on there now because I'll be sending out a special exclusive video to that email list a little bit later on, which will explain a bit more about what's going to get taught on charisma and dating, plus some other surprises, etc. Anyway, all of that to one side. So put your questions in the chat. Any questions you've got about dating, the dating scene, dating post-COVID, blah, 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 whatever it is, stick it in the chat and we'll get to it. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about in the meantime is I've been out most of the day. I had to go down to Brighton, which is it's about an hour outside of London. So I took the train down there because I had to go to a family event and I met up with some family members and stuff at lunchtime, and that was very nice. And we had a really good afternoon. So I wasn't working in the normal way that I normally am. I was sort of out and about in the afternoon, had got a little bit of sun, went down, looked at the seaside, etc. It was all very pleasant. I was sort of like, but I was checking social media on my phone in the interim and stuff, and I got into quite an interesting conversation on Twitter with Alpha Rivellino, amongst other people. Now, and I'll come to the question that Alpha Rivellino, or Rivellino as his name actually is, posted to me in a moment. But if you're not aware, Rivellino is a day game guy. He's very active on Twitter. He's got a lot of followers over there. I don't know. I'm not even sure if he's got a blog actually, but he's certainly very active on Twitter. So look him up there. His hashtag is, or his handle is Alpha Rivellino. Look him up there. He's quite a funny guy. I don't know an enormous amount about his stuff. I mean, he's been around for a long time. I think he's in his mid-40s. I believe he's based in Spain. And his account is kind of quite funny. He talks a lot about day game stuff, but he talks about things like sorry, I'm just seeing the questions coming in on the side. I'll get to them in a few minutes. He talks a lot about kind of trollish type stuff, like if she wears Van trainers or if she's got tattoos, then she's a bad girl and you don't want to go there, etc., etc., etc. And he actually reached some real international fame recently when he posted a list. I think it was one of those lists about, you know, these are the attributes girls should have. in order to be desirable in the dating marketplace. And he posted this list up, and it got picked up in the Mail. The Mail Online ran a story about him saying this guy Rivellino is telling women what to do, blah blah blah. And I tell you what, if you've got a Twitter account and you want to blow it up, one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it is to write out one of those lists about this is what women should be like if you want to be desirable to men in 2020, because that, without fail, it triggers all of the feminists, it triggers the media, and it goes crazy. And if you're lucky, you'll get featured in some, like, you know, online publication or something like Rivellino did and other people from Twitter have done. Anyway, for some reason, how did it come about? We got into this kind of conversation because he always talks about how girls who wear Vans and girls who have tattoos are, you know, sluts or whatever, you know, they're bad girls. They're girls that you don't want to date. And personally, I quite like tattoos. I haven't got any myself. I quite like tattoos on girls. And anyway, like I said in my video the other week, I think it was last week, you know, red lights can often be green flags depending on what you're looking for. I mean, yes, if you're looking for a serious, long-term, committed relationship, you know, then you might want to look out for some of these so-called red flags. I don't actually think tattoos are the worst of these by any means, by the way, but you obviously want to vet your partner and work out what you're getting into. But for the most part, if you're just looking to have fun and date and, you know, maybe have something casual or be, you know, friends with benefits or whatever, a lot of these red flags are just totally meaningless. And you get all of these dudes on Twitter who are sort of traditionalists and very holier than thou and everything, and they're posting all this stuff about, oh, she had tattoos, that means she's a low quality woman, and she wears Vans, you know, these trainers, and therefore she's a slut, and she's, you know, she's low quality, etc., etc. And I just think it's all a load of nonsense. And I think these dudes are kind of virtue signaling, to be honest. And I think also, in many cases, it's a buffer to approaching, because they are allowing this excuse. You know, they're saying, oh, she's got these physical attributes, or she's got too many piercings, or she's got tattoos or whatever, so she's a bad girl. So that lets me off the hook from having to approach her because I've designated her to be a bad girl. And so therefore, but the good thing is, instead of feeling ashamed because I haven't had the balls to make the approach, I can now feel good about it because I can boast on social media that these girls are beneath me because that's not the kind of quality girl that I'm looking for, and blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a lot of hypocrisy there. I also don't really think it's valid anyway. I think loads of people have tattoos these days. It's pretty mainstream. I don't think it's really, you know, a sort of a big detriment. I mean, yeah, clearly, if you've got meet a girl and she's got tattoos all over her face and like massive piercings and all this kind of stuff, then you might want to think twice. But for the most part, a lot of girls have tattoos, and that in itself, I don't think is a really significant indicator either way. Okay. And also, anyway, I quite like them. I think girls with tattoos, I think it looks pretty sexy, to be honest. And again, it kind of depends what you want, what you're looking for. But if you're looking for something more short term, then why not go for a girl who's got a bit of personality, maybe is a little bit more adventurous, maybe is a bit more experimental, etc., etc., etc. Right? I mean, you know, why do we have to be these? You know, why do we have to fit into this sort of conformist, conservative with a small c framework just because a bunch of dudes, you know, from middle America think that that's cool on Twitter? I mean, it's just a nonsense, right? You know. So I posted something about that, and then and then we were joking around a little bit, and I said something that I think Rivellino thought was funny, and he retweeted me, and then a woman came into the thread and said of me, she said, oh, not my cup of tea, because he doesn't believe in love. And then Rivellino came back and underneath said, Troy, do you believe in love? So he actually asked us a question. Now, I know this is a significant thing for him because he's always banging on. I've seen him recently talking about Rollo Tomassi and claiming that Rollo Tomassi doesn't believe in love. And I mean, I don't think I don't believe that's true, by the way. But Rivellino was claiming that Rollo Tomassi doesn't believe in love, and he was saying love is important, and these red pill guys, they don't believe in love, they don't, you know, blah blah blah. And him and I think people that he's affiliated with, they draw a big division because they are the romantics. You know, they believe in love, they believe in the kind of, and to some extent they believe in the purity fantasy as well of women as, you know, the Madonna whore dichotomy, right? You know, she's either a K-selected vaginal kind of perfect innocent woman who's worthy of marriage and commitment, or she's a whore and she shouldn't be touched, kind of thing. And they what they don't understand is that actually most people live in a sort of a gray area. Most people are kind of like, they have bad qualities to themselves and they have good qualities, and those coexist within the same individual, whether that's a man or a woman, right? So, you know, she may seem to you to be a good girl, but you don't see the full picture. You don't see the bad girlness that she perhaps was involved with when she was younger, when she was at college, behind your back, you know. And this is why guys get blindsided the whole time, right? This is why guys end up, you know, in a relationship, and then there's, you know, she cheats and he's like, oh, I couldn't see it happening, I can't stand it. And it's sort of like, well, you because you believe in this idea that there's purity and there's impurity, and she was pure, okay? And that's just, you know, these guys just need to get out the house a bit more and actually meet some real life women and have some experience of this stuff, because what you find is that most people aren't wholly good or wholly bad. They're somewhere in the middle, and they make choices, and sometimes they make choices that damage you or are harmful to you, and other times they make choices that are good. And it's just, life is very messy, right? It's not this sort of binary thing. But anyway, so he's asked me, so Rivellino said to me, do you believe in love? And you know, I don't know what he expected me to answer. I came back and I said, yeah, here's what I said. It was pretty much verbatim. I said, yes, I believe there are thoughts and emotions that meet that designation. Okay, so do you believe in love? Yes, I believe there are thoughts and emotions that meet that designation. Okay, now, you know, I'm aware that that's a bit of a politician's answer, but I was thinking about the question. I was thinking, well, it's kind of a semantic question, really. What are you really asking me here? Do you believe in love? Right? It's a big question, and I think what he's really asking, and what the woman who'd made the point before was implying, you know, it's not. It's like, do you believe in love as this big entity? And I suppose they probably meant romantic love, and romantic love that lasts, and it's like, you know, this Disneyfied kind of notion of love. But I was taking a step back, and I was thinking, what do you mean by the question? I mean, I would not honestly get onto social media and say I don't believe in love, because that's ridiculous. Because for obviously, for the first part, you've got many different kinds of love. You have love between family members. You've got love between brothers and sisters. You've got love between parents and kids, and all this sort of stuff. Yes, of course, love exists. Now, in the realm of romantic love, which is really what we're talking about here, and dating love, then yes, I believe absolutely that the feelings of love are a real thing. You know, you meet somebody, she really likes you, you really like her, you sleeping together, you start spending a lot of time together, you love it, you know, you become affectionate with each other, you start to, you know, and that chemical bonding takes place, and you start to, you know, and you feel this thing that we call love. But love is just a word. Love is a container word. It's not like, it's not a thing in itself. It's not like there's this glass. This is a glass. Love is a thing, right? Love is just a word that we use to encompass feelings and emotions. And I mean, it would be absurd for me to say I don't believe in that, because yeah, of course I do. Of course I believe in that, because it's just part of human nature. It's part of the human condition. The bigger question really is not, do you believe in it? It's more, because I suspect what he was getting at was more like, do you believe in love in a more romantic sense? So do you believe in love, perhaps monogamous love that lasts for a lifetime, or that kind of love? I suspect is probably more what he was getting at. And this is, of course, where it becomes more tricky, because, you know, as we see, the divorce rate is very high. A lot of infidelities happen. There's a whole question mark around monogamy and the naturalness of that as far as human beings are concerned. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, love exists, but that isn't really the right question. The right question has got to be, okay, so but what happens then, right? And this is perhaps something that I'll return to in the future in more, because it's quite a deep topic, really. But I think that you could make a very good case to say that love is actually a series of, it's a chemical thing. It's a chemical psychological. It's formed by synapses in the brain. It's a chemical thing that happens as a result of our biology. And I'm sure you could make a fantastic case to substantiate that. But so what? We still experience it as being real. So it's an entity, it's a thing. But the bigger question is, how do you structure it into your life, right? And many people have attempted to the traditional way of incorporating into their lives, which is to get married and have a family and all that kind of stuff. And they've ended up in dire straits as a result of that, because it hasn't worked out as they'd expected. And the question, I suppose, is that the norm, or is that just how things are, particularly these days in society? Now, Michel Houellebecq, the French writer, writes about how romantic love is impossible in the modern age, in the modern world. And I'm not saying I agree with him, but I do know where he's coming from, okay? There are a lot of forces that make romantic love particularly difficult in an age where we have social media, where we have dating apps, where we have constant connectivity, constant temptation, limitless options, particularly for, let's face it, young women in their prime years. They have almost limitless options, okay? These things are real, and they cause impediments to love, or they cause impediments to long-term monogamy, which is kind of what we usually mean when we talk about love. They present obstacles, they present difficulties, okay? If your girl has an Instagram and she's being followed by dudes all over the planet, some rich dude in Monaco with a big yacht, and he's a top tier Chad kind of dude, that could present a problem for her continuing fidelity to you if she doesn't feel that you measure up in the SMB, and if if she's getting a little bit bored with your shtick. So, I mean, there are challenges out there for sure. And actually, and this is now bringing it back round to talk about Charisma and Dating Academy. This is really the starting point for Charisma and Dating Academy, right? Because in the first section of the course, I go into all this stuff in great detail. I talk about the dating marketplace as it is now. I talk about the difficulties that guys face. And then the rest of the course, I present the solution. And in my view, the solution is that you need to become as impressive in face-to-face interactions as you possibly can, because it's only by doing that you're going to be able to capitalize on the opportunities that the market presents. All right. So yeah, this is actually really informs the Charisma and Dating Academy course, which, as I say, comes out on Friday. We've got till Friday till Monday for enrollments for that. But in the most part, the course is all about mindsets. It's practical ideas for how you can get the right mindsets, how you can create the kind of the inner, bring out your inner sex god, if you like, bring out your inner Chad. That's what it comes down to. And then the final section is all about game techniques. So then we go into real, this is the A to Z of stuff that you need in order to go out there and sell yourself in the market, because that's what it is. We're all in a big market. We're all in the sexual marketplace. We all have to find ways to sell ourselves. I don't mean for money, but I mean we have to present ourselves to our target audience, our customers. That is to say, the women that we're attracted to, and we have to do that in the most favorable way possible. And the course teaches you exactly how to do that. Anyway, that's enough about that. I think it's quite an interesting topic, though, guys. And I mean, let me know if you want me to talk more about this. But I think probably in future, I'd be interested to do some more philosophical stuff about the meaning of love, you know, like love, and because what, of course, everybody has to decide is how they're going to navigate life. What are you going to do? You know, you might be coming here because you want to study like dating techniques and game and things. Well, that's great, that's fine, but ultimately, what's your end game? What are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you looking, you know, to get into a traditional marriage or relationship, or what? What else? What are you doing? Do you want to just, you know, perpetually spin plates, or what's your plan? Right? You've got to know, got to have an idea, because things aren't getting any easier out there, right? And this is just something that you need to bear in mind. Anyway, James has got my comment deleted. I didn't delete it, and I'm the only one here who can delete. So I don't know, unless you mean a comment below, but I can't remember. I don't delete my comments anyway. I get somebody else goes through my stuff for me. So, all right. So, Minimod says, how has game changed since lockdown? Are women more cautious when being approached? From what I've seen, no. But then it kind of depends where you are, right? Because in London, my frame of reference, I've been in London, I went to Brighton today, and I've been in Berlin in Germany. And both Berlin and London, and actually Brighton as well, which is a smaller town in the UK. Oh, actually, no, I've been in Hanover as well. I was in Hanover in Germany, then Berlin. I've also been in London. So those are the places I've been to. And for the most part, all of those places are now pretty normal. You know, like I was walking around in Brighton today, there were like just loads of people out, loads of girls out on day trips. The sun was shining. It was, people were at the beach, really nice. Came back into London, same thing. Girls are out on Oxford Street, going to the shops, blah, blah, blah. So as far as those places are concerned, it's pretty much normal. Now, you might get, and it's been said, you know, if you get a girl who's wearing a mask and she looks very nervous and blah, 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 that might be one to avoid. But for the most part, I think we're kind of back to normal. And what I'm hearing is that really, if and this is what I predicted all along, girls are actually more receptive because everyone's been locked up for months, and now all of a sudden we're getting this sort of taste of normality back, and we actually welcome that. So, but it depends where you are. I mean, if you're in, I believe, Los Angeles, have they locked down Los Angeles again now? I mean, they're talking. There's been some talk about London getting locked down again. So, you know, it depends where you are. It depends on what stage you are in terms of coming out of this damn thing. But from what I've seen, I think as restrictions start to get eased, things go back to normal pretty quickly because people just want to get on with their lives, you know? And I don't think it's a massive impediment to game. So Diego says, what do you think is the first step to have better charisma? Well, you have to join Charisma and Dating Academy. Get on my email list below. It opens on Friday, and it's on sale until Monday. That's Friday the 7th till the Monday the 11th of August. But seriously, what's the first step to have better charisma? Well, in my view, it all comes down to mindsets, because if you think that you're a pile of crap and you're not really worth, you know, anybody spending any time on, or you know, you're not attractive and all that kind of thing, then you're not going to come across in a charismatic way. Because part of charisma, a lot of charisma is about radiating out from yourself, right? A lot of charisma is communicating the idea that you are special, for want of a better word. All right, and you don't do that if you have a negative mindset, okay? And again, you know, I always use Trump as an example, but he's just an easy one to pick. If you think about Donald Trump, part of his charisma is created by the fact that clearly he thinks he's awesome, all right? And, you know, many people disagree, but he thinks he's so awesome that it carries him through, all right? If he was filled with self-doubt, and if he was sort of sitting there going, oh my God, you know, maybe Biden's cooler than me, or, you know, or I don't know, whatever, or, you know, oh, Obama was really good, you know, maybe I am a bit rubbish, maybe I should, you know, if he was sitting there sort of filled with these doubts, then his charisma would be negatively impacted. But because his mindset is so strong, because he's just basically, and he is like full on dark triad, really. I mean, you know, he's got most of those, you know, the narcissism, the Machiavellianism, probably a bit of the psychopathy. You know, he's got all of these things. he just powers through, and you see what happens. That makes the people that love him even more, and it kind of enrages his opponents. So you need to get the internal stuff sorted first. You need to get the mindset sorted first, and there are techniques to help you do that. Again, I go through these in Charisma and Dating Academy, but yeah, it's really thinking incredibly highly of yourself is the first step. Chateau Artiste used to talk about, God, it's been a long day. What's the term he uses? Basically having outsized confidence is key, right? Thinking, being like overly confident of yourself, even when there's no logical reason why you should be. That is the first key to coming across as being charismatic. All right, so Michael says, so basically I'm going back to university this fall and we're only allowed to hang out with people in our specific dorming area. So any ideas for dorm game? Quarantine also from US. Well, I assume it's, I don't know how the dorm's set up. Obviously, I assume that you're talking about a mixed dorm here. I don't know if you're in like individual houses or something like that. I mean, the issue that you've got here, and again, I don't know how many people you're talking about, you know, how many potential girls there are here that you could be hooking up with. The issue here is that it sounds like you're going to just be in a hierarchy because you're locked into this, you know, this dorm, and so what's going to happen is a natural hierarchy is going to emerge where you've got the dudes who are regarded as the top dogs, and you've got the dudes in the middle, and then you've got the, you know, kind of the losers at the bottom. And we know how it goes in the marketplace, right? The dudes at the top are going to get the most attention from the most desirable women because that's just the way it goes. The other issue that you've got is that in this setup, unless I'm missing something, and obviously I don't know all the details, you might feel that you have to be a little bit careful about approaching and, you know, making something happen because presumably other people are going to find out, and if it goes wrong, people are going to know, and blah blah blah. So it's not an ideal situation, because the thing that I teach and the thing that I'm passionate about is cold approach, that is to say interactions where you don't know her, you guys have never met before, you're probably never going to meet again, and you go up and you take the shot, okay? And that's what you do with day game. It's what you do in the nighttime. To some extent, it's kind of what you do on Tinder as well, because if you're in a big metropolitan area, you're just swiping through a load of people. You're not going to see them again, you know. So immediately, there's two massive benefits. Firstly, you're not in a hierarchy, so they're not all sitting there going, yeah, well, Michael's a nice guy, but what about Chad? You know, who's in the room at the top of the dormitory? Chad's the guy that we all really want, you know. So they're naturally going to, and it might be Michael. I'm not saying it's not Michael, but I'm just saying a pecking order will emerge, and it's very hard then to there isn't some magical trick that's going to like propel you to the top of that hierarchy, you know, unless you, I don't know, become incredibly ripped or join the sports team or, you know, something like that. But for the most part, the problem with hierarchy game, social circle game really, is that you are waiting to be chosen. The great thing about cold approach and going out and just being entrepreneurial in the marketplace is that you are creating your own opportunities, okay, which is, I think, is going to be harder here. And the other thing is that you are going to be more inhibited because perhaps you're worried about what other people think, and you know, you don't want to be in a position where you've got rejected by like a load of the top girls, because they're obviously going to tell their friends, and then the other girls are going to be even less likely to touch you. So not in a rude way. I mean, touch you in a sort of you know, to select you, let's say. So for me, I would play it cool, and I would just see how things shake down at first and see if you're getting any signals from girls who are interested. And if you are, I would certainly follow up on those. But it might be one, and I'd need to know more about the circumstances, but it might be one where you're going to have to play it cool. And then maybe if you can get out at the weekends, or you can, I don't know if you've got there's going to be maybe there's a local town or something like that, but I would try to see if there's a way you can do your game outside of this particular scenario, and just see how things shake out here. Because it could be that you've got girls who are just they're just into you anyway. Maybe you are at the top of that hierarchy or near the top, in which case, you know, great, you've got the pickings. But just be very careful about shitting where you eat, as they say, because it doesn't bring good things. So yeah, I would be discreet. I would watch and wait, see how things shake down, and kind of take it from there. Okay, thanks, Michael, for the question. Random Donuts says, how do you deal with cock blocker dudes hitting on the same girl? I'm talking to in a club. Big up from Australia. Thanks, man. Big up to you too, sir. Well, it's tricky. I mean, like Myron Gaines, if you see Myron on Rule Zero and his own channel, and he was and I've interviewed him on this channel. I mean, for a start, he's like a 6'3" dude. He's pretty buff, kind of quite Chad-like, I suppose. And even he says because he's doing night game in Miami, and he says, you know, he'll walk into the bar, and if it's filled with guys, he just walks out again, because, like, why make it more difficult for yourself? You know, it's so. So I mean, the standard advice is basically when the dude comes in. So say you've met this girl and you've taken her to one side, and you're chatting and you're getting to know one another and everything, and then some guy comes in and tries to talk to her. The standard advice, well, there's two approaches to this. One approach is to befriend him and try to sort of diffuse it like that. The other way is just to completely ignore him and carry on talking to the girl, and just don't give him any oxygen. I mean, you could maybe raise an eyebrow at the girl, as if to say, "Oh, this guy's really sad," or whatever. You know, how that, you know, like looking at his as if he's almost subhuman in a way. Do you know what I mean? And then hopefully he goes away. But it kind of depends on the enthusiasm of the cock block, let's say. I mean, if he's like some big dude and he's drunk and he really likes the girl and everything and tries to get in your face, you know, that is not a great situation. And particularly if the girl then switches her focus onto him. And sometimes you've just got to chalk it up to a loss. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes this kind, I mean, like, it is a jungle out there, right? And sometimes you just have to chalk it up to the loss. Other times I've been successful with a little bit more like the second approach I mentioned, which is to kind of ignore them, to tool them a little bit with the girl. That can work. You can say things like, "Hey man, you're looking tired," or you know, things, just little, like, kind of like negs to try to sort of deflate him a bit in her eyes. Another thing you can say is, "Oh, I've heard about this guy. This guy can literally get any girl into bed within 2 minutes of talking to her." And you set the bar so high for him that then he's there like going, "Yeah, hi, do you like stuff?" And, you know, you make it difficult because you've kind of like, sort of like, you made it explicit that he's going to hit on her, and then you set the bar very high for his ability. So you can try that, but in the end, I think try and avoid these situations, right? You know, try to go to clubs where there's a good ratio. Avoid places where it's a sausage fest, and this is, again, it's the beauty of daytime approach, because you don't have this problem, or you rarely have this problem. You can avoid it anyway. So that's some thoughts on it anyway. But it's not easy. I mean, you know, sometimes you just got to roll with the punches with night game, because it's a bit of a circus. Thanks for the question, though, man. Cortez says, "Is there any excuse for a friend who pursues one of your plates without letting you know?" No, I don't really think there is, to be honest. That sounds pretty out of order to me. I mean, when you're saying plate, presumably you guys have been, you know, you're hooking up, you're sleeping together. If you're mates with somebody and they are trying to get with her, then I would say that's a pretty serious betrayal, and you might want to cut that person out, and you might want to cut the girl out depending on how she's responded to it. But no, I don't think, unless you're the kind of guy, you're so easygoing, you're just like, "Yeah, man, take her, because I've just got so many, I'm just not bothered." But it doesn't sound, I imagine it's not that. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of I mean, you've got to make the call depending on how good a friend he is and everything. But to be honest, if somebody's doing that, I think that is pretty crappy behavior, and I wouldn't be happy about that. Oh, wait a minute. There's another part to this, actually. It doesn't bother me, except for the fact that I'm not given forewarning, or that become the butt of someone else's secrets. Well, I mean, you say it doesn't bother you, but I mean, like, it's a bit bad, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how much you like this girl and everything, but even if you're not that bothered about her, there should be that bro code. You know, you're seeing this girl, you shouldn't have one of your friends covertly trying to get with her behind your back. That just doesn't seem right to me, unless I'm missing something about the situation. So I think it's a bit of a violation. You don't want low quality people in your life. You know, you want to cut them out. It's not good. Spider Tech 500 says Paul talks about more masculine women attracting weaker men. Do you agree? Can very masculine men attract tomboyish women as well? Well, I don't know, but why would they? Why would they want to? Actually, yes, they can. I mean, when you say Paul, is that Tim Paul? I'm not sure who you're talking about here, but anyway, there is a thing. I think this is actually in the game, or it's in Mystery Method, where Mystery says, you know, ultimate masculine attracts ultimate feminine. So the most masculine kind of hardcore alpha kind of dude gets the most beautiful feminine, etc. girls. And I think fundamentally that's true, because opposites attract. And you know, generally speaking, what we like in the opposite sex is that they differ from us, not that they're the same as us. Having said that, you know, different strokes and everything. I mean, certainly I have seen relationships where you've had a more sort of dominant woman with a boyfriend who's less dominant. You know, I've certainly seen that. I think that is a thing. It's not something that I've ever been attracted to myself, because I just don't. That's just not a dynamic that I would enjoy. You know, like, I don't want to be with a woman who is, you know, who's sort of dominating it. That's just all wrong as far as I'm concerned. But I think there are guys who are into it, and you take it to an extreme with a sort of a sub-dom relationship. You know, what's the fetish thing where the woman is a dominatrix and the guy is, you know, he gets off on being submissive. So certainly that exists. But when you say, can a very masculine man attract tomboyish women? Well, I think they can, but the question would be, why would they want to? I mean, in many ways, I think even the more masculine woman would probably enjoy the attentions of a very masculine man, because she would, I imagine, want somebody who's going to be able to keep her in line and, you know, call her out on her BS and all of that stuff. And I do remember one time years ago, some people I worked with, there was a pretty masculine kind of tomboyish kind of woman that we worked with. And then there was this dude who I'm still kind of in contact with today, actually, who was a very, they used to call him Bruiser, which kind of gives you an idea of the kind of guy he was. He was like a rugby player. He was very big build, stocky kind of dude. Liked to drink, all of that good stuff. And yeah, there was definitely a frisson between them. And I think they actually got it on a couple of times. So yeah, I think masculine men can attract tomboyish women, but you know, I'm not sure why you would necessarily want to. I mean, you know, unless you know, it's certainly not something. It's not something I'm advocating anyway, because that's just the wrong dynamic for me. You know, like if I meet a girl and she seems to be masculine, she seems to be somehow domineering or whatever, I just run a mile. It's just not what I'm into. Do you know what I mean? I like very feminine women, and that's in terms of my relationships and dating relationships, and you know, that's just how it is. So, you know, but it's different strokes for everybody. Oh, wait a minute. He says, and then he says pook. Okay, fine. Troy, good stuff. Thank you, man. Elliot Chapo says, what are some superb day game openers? I tend to ask for directions and then try to build rapport, compliment, and then move in for the close. Well, that's fine. I mean, personally, I prefer direct. I don't know that they are superb, but I just tend to just go in and say, hey, listen, I was just over there. I just saw you. You look really cute. I had to come and talk to you because I knew I'd regret it otherwise. My name's Troy. How are you doing? Or something like, oh, you know, you're very beautiful. I've even used like some fake cheesy lines. I could go over and say, do you know what? I was just walking past you just now and I fell in love with you. Or from the time it took me to walk from that door to here, I saw you and I fell in love with you. Had to come and say, hi, my name's Troy, blah, blah, blah. So you go in a very direct way. You make it obvious from the off why you're walking up to her to talk to her. The issue, asking for directions is kind of fine, but it's a little bit of a cop-out because firstly, if she's very attractive, she probably has an inkling that you're talking to her because you fancy her. And so why not just own that? And secondly, you then have that kind of transition into it being where's Starbucks to it being let's go out for drinks, and that can be sometimes tricky to handle. But I mean, mate, if you're doing it and it's working, then that structure is fine. You probably want to tease her a little bit. You probably want to create some frisson. You know, you don't want to be too much rapport, too much complimenting. You want to create a bit of flirtation there, and that comes about through friction. That comes about through, you know, attraction is created in the pull away, that is to say. So yeah, be mindful of that. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd try going direct, see how it works for you. That would be my advice. James, AB, how do you ask a girl out in college? Should you even bother? Don't want to get rejected and then have to see her shitting where you eat and all that. Well, we sort of covered this with the question before. I generally speaking, the thing with college is you're in a hierarchy. There's going to be the top dudes, you know, that all of the girls are going to like. Then there's going to be the guys in the middle, and then there's going to be the sort of like the omegas at the bottom who everybody shuns, right? And the problem is because they can observe you and they've got more time, they're gonna pigeonhole you, and it can be quite hard to come out of that. You know, if you're regarded as one of the top guys, if you're Chad and you're the captain of the football team and all that kind of stuff, great. You know, fill your boots, as it were. But if you're not that guy, then it's going to be harder. And as you say, you also don't want to have to see her the next day, and you don't want to get, you know, horribly blown out by loads of girls because you're just, you know, it's going to be bad for your reputation, and the other girls aren't then going to touch you with a barge pole. So my strategy for situations like this is a lot more passive. You know, just sort of chill out, be cool, see how things shake out. If you get some indications of interest, then that's fine. You can pursue those. I mean, when I was at school, and this was many centuries ago now, I wasn't. I don't think I could claim to have been one of the top guys or anything like that, but I did get some attention actually, and I didn't handle it particularly well at that time because I didn't understand anything. But you know, I think it's best to capitalize on the attention that you get, you know, the indicators of interest that you get, and work off that rather than sort of I mean, you can't really do conventional game. You can certainly put yourself in front of the girls that you like and try and be funny and tease them a bit and all that kind of thing. That might get you some, you know, get you some points. But you know, you can't really do proper like pickup in a situation where you're sort of in a social circle with people. It's just awkward. And it doesn't really work very well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it anyway. You know, I would try and keep it outside as much as possible. Or girls who are in different, I don't know what the setup is, but if there's girls in different departments or people you don't see very much, you can maybe try that. Yeah, you know, but yeah, be cautious, I would say. Different types of women, some are more prone to slutty behaviors. Yeah, I mean, sure, that of course, but I don't think it's as clear cut as some of these people try to make out. Any game techniques when walking the dog? Well, I haven't got a dog, unfortunately, but John Modern Life Dating has, and he's gone full on dog pill, as he calls it, and he set up an Instagram for his dog. And so what he does is he's walking the dog. Girls are like, oh my God, the dog is so cute. And then they get talking and he sort of chats them up a bit. And then he says, oh, you should add the dog on Instagram. I forget the dog's name, but he gets her to add the dog on Instagram. He's got like cute pictures of the dog on this Instagram page. And then, of course, they're connected on Instagram, and he can just message her on the Instagram on behalf of the dog, and he can make it funny and cute and everything like that. And apparently that's working very well for him. I have a friend here in London who also has a dog, and he's just used it through walking around and just getting into conversations with girls and just doing it in the normal way. So it's definitely a good opener. I think the Instagram thing is quite a good idea, setting up an Instagram page for the dog, because that's a really good way to like get contact details. So maybe try that. Hey man, are you good? Just wondering, have you ever tried to hit on a policewoman? No, I haven't actually. No. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes, occasionally, you see actually very attractive policewomen, but it's not something I've attempted. Again, you see, I don't really like the uniform. I mean, it's sort of like there's something even about that, even the symbol of authority. It's sort of like it's a bit too dominant for me. But I don't know. Maybe watch this space. Who knows what will happen in the future. But yeah, no, it's not something I've tried. So if anyone else has, put it in the chat and let's hear the stories. So Carlos Dura says, God, I think, is there any difference between the notch count of a girl that is on, he means the carousel, so she's riding the carousel, dating lots of different guys, sleeping with lots of different guys, but the quality of men are high MSV? Male sexual value. I think what he means here is that if she slept with a lot of high value men as opposed to a lot of low value men, does that make her higher value? So would she be lower value if she's just slept with a lot of low value men? I don't think it makes much of a difference, really. I mean, I suppose. I mean, the thing is, if she is a girl and she slept with a lot of guys and she's also slept with a lot of low value guys, that perhaps means that she's less of a catch anyway. But in the end, if she slept with a load of guys, she slept with a load of guys. The quality of those guys is sort of secondary, I would suggest. But like I say, I mean, all of this stuff, it only matters if you want to get married, to be honest. I mean, if you don't, it's fairly irrelevant, So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I think I got that correct. What you meant by that. Creative routines to get a platonic female friend, wing woman, using her as a pivot to seduce other women in a nightclub, bar, venue. I think the best thing about this strategy is more just that she's with you rather than she helps, let's say. Because if you walk into the club and you're with say an attractive girl and she's a female friend, that gives you an element of pre-selection already, and it makes you a bit more approachable and not intimidating if you approach girls, because the girls will think, oh, he's with that girl, he must be kind of okay, he's got that kind of female seal of approval. I think that does the heavy lifting for you. As far as using the platonic female friend, they're often not very good, to be honest. They're often not actually that good at sort of doing the game, I mean, because what you sort of don't want is just for her to walk up to the girl and say, oh, my friend really likes you, kind of thing, because it's a bit lame. I mean, and the girl, like I say, she's not really she's probably not gonna sell it in a very good way. So I wouldn't try to get her to sort of do the work for you or anything like that. I would say the best thing actually is you go in, you see the girl, you go in, you do the approach, get talking to the girl, create a bit of attraction and stuff, and then bring her over and say, oh, come and meet my friend. This is Julia, and then introduce the two girls, and you can have a little bit of a jealousy plot line there, maybe, because she's kind of thinking, well, is she with this guy or is she not with this, blah blah blah. And it will also at the same time hopefully give her a little bit of comfort, because she'll be like, okay, well, this guy must be all right because he's with this female, and that means that he's acceptable to the female tribe, kind of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't really overcomplicate it, because for the most part, female friends aren't really that good at game necessarily. That would be my take on this. IG is incredible, scratch the surface and open hypergamy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Exactly. I want a remote control girl where I can turn her on for sex and make her go away. Is there something wrong with me? Well, no, and I think there's actually a market for that, and they are being produced, aren't they? So your dream will become it's kind of a reality now, and it will become even more of a reality as we go on. So I've just gone past a lot of questions here. God, sorry, I'm just going up and down these questions. Right, William. Okay, this is a good one. On cold approach, was reading your book, 7 Laws. It mentioned just say the first thing that comes into your mind. Does that still apply now, or do you believe it's better to premeditate? Well, I mean, like, I tend to be pretty formulaic now, to be honest. Like I just said, I tend to get clients to do direct approaches, and it kind of comes down to saying, I saw you, you're really cute. I saw you, you're pretty. You look really nice. I had to come and say hello. You're beautiful. I just fell in love with you, something like that. So those are the kinds of things that I would recommend. What I was talking about here, I think, is more like indirect approach. And yes, there is something to be said for this, because in the end, however you open, you've got to be able to carry the conversation, and carrying the conversation means the ability to talk for a bit while she's getting used to being stood in front of you, and she's allowing her time to sort of relax into the situation. So yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for this. This kind of thing can work in a crazy nightclub environment where there's lots of stimuli going on around, and you can be a bit random with what you say. But in the main, I prefer now just a much more direct sort of approach, where you just go in and tell her what's up, and then you transition to more teasing and joking around and things, and then you go for some kind of a close. Terry says, are you doing one-on-one training? Yeah, I am actually. So if you email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, then we can discuss it. I do typically Skype or Zoom conference calls, one-on-one calls. I can also do face-to-face training as well. Obviously, it depends where you are, where I am, the COVID situation, etc., etc. I've done a lot of it in London and Europe, but yes, absolutely. So troy@realtroyfrancis.com. Drop me an email, and we can discuss it further. Do you think Night Game, this is JD, is largely dead as long as the current restrictions remain in place? Bars seem utterly pointless now. The state is effectively banned having a social life. I forget where you are, JD, but yes, I mean, sadly, that kind of is the case, really, in a lot of places. I mean, London's been pretty mental as far as in the centre, in Soho. London's been pretty crazy because they've opened up, all the bars are open, but because the weather's been nice, they've allowed people to go out into the streets, and they've pedestrianised the streets. So it's become this kind of just like full-on street party kind of a thing now. And there's a lot of opportunities there because you've got a lot of, girls who are out and about having a good time, drinking, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. As we've got a bit to go with the summer and the warm weather, but when that starts to ease and we get into the fall, I don't really know how things are going to shake out, because inside venues is still not really a thing. So yeah, I would say it is at the moment pretty much dead, because of course you haven't got any clubs either in most places. Again, all of this stuff is relative. It depends where you are. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Instagram stories from Mykonos at the moment, the Greek island. There seems to be some nightlife there. I don't think it's full capacity like it normally is, but if you're lucky enough to be in a place where there is a bit of nightlife, or you can travel to a place where there's a bit of nightlife, then I think people just want to get back to normal, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the restrictions do kind of kill it, unfortunately, which is why I always say to people, you should you should have different strands. You should, do a bit of day game, do some online game. So if night game gets taken out of the equation for a bit, then you've got these other things to fall back on. So Michael comes back, 150 girls in apartment size. So this is pretty big. Okay. Well, this is a question we had earlier about dorm, his situation in the dormitory, and if he could do game and stuff. That is pretty big, actually. You're talking 300 people, which is quite a lot. So you can probably get away with a little bit more than I thought. But what I would say still is just be a little bit cautious and I would just go into it, be cool, be chill, be sociable. Don't be weird. Don't try to be too gamey, and see what indicators of interest you get, and then take it from there. That's what I would do. Don't go around and try to spam approach and stuff, because it would just be kind of weird. John MLD, it's too early to be this sexy. It's never too early. Always this sexy from the first moment of the morning until when I go to bed, which is quite soon because it's a bit late here now. What else have we got here? This is a great question. Does keeping snakes as pets act as a cock block? Any tips on how not to scare them away? What, the snakes or the girls? Depends on the girl, really. I mean, some girls are going to be some girls are not going to be into that, but there are going to be a subset of girls who are probably quite into snakes and probably maybe even think it's quite sexy or something. So it just depends. It's certainly polarizing, though. I mean, you can sell it in kind of a badass kind of a way, though. I mean, to have snakes is kind of quite a, I don't know if it's kind of a badass kind of a pet to have. So yeah, I just well, say to her, come back and see. I've got come back and see my pet, and maybe don't specify what it is, and then get her to come back, and then she sees the snake. Or maybe she'd just be curious anyway to come back and see a snake. I mean, some girls I think would be into that. Just depends on the girl, I think, to be honest. I mean, I think a fluffy puppy is always going to be better than snakes, but he's asked another, how does pet snakes I don't know, why did you get into snakes in the first place? I don't know, man. Like I say, it's I think it depends. It's female dependent. I don't. Taylor Hauer, who is a frequent correspondent of mine. Hello, Taylor. How are you? Says, if enough men become red pill aware or game aware, is it possible that women could alter or change their mating strategy? Yeah, I think so, because the strategies are mutable. I mean, it's an evolutionary mechanism. So the strategy will evolve depending on what is efficacious for them as far as reproduction and survival is concerned. But I don't really think that we're anywhere near to that happening at the moment, because I don't think that enough men are versed in this stuff for it to make a difference in a big societal way. So I don't really think it's relevant. So I think I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. And I think actually there are other pressures on the dating marketplace that are more of a pressing concern, like social media, like Instagram. I mean, God knows what other platforms they're going to invent in the next few years. I think those things are having more of an impact than guys becoming savvy in this space. Ian says, can day game skills be adapted to build high value social circle? Can you use day game to network with high value social scenes, promoters, models, photographers, DJs, businessmen? Well, I mean, the skills that you get from doing it for sure will help you in business situations, in all the kinds of situations that you mentioned. Definitely, because throwing yourself into a load of random encounters with strangers in public is, it's just, there is nothing else like it, as far as I know, to improve your social skills and to take you to the next level. And in much easier environments, like say you do a load of day game and then you go to a networking event where it's sort of a warm kind of a open anyway, you will be so much better placed to go and just talk to people and hold like nice, pleasant, be funny, be entertaining. You'll just be in so much of a better place to do that. And a lot of people find this stuff really nerve-wracking. Okay, so it does become like a superpower, but I wouldn't say necessarily that you go around and day game people. I don't know if that's what you meant, but I wouldn't be chasing people down the street to network with them. I mean, I would. I mean, you kind of can do that, but I wouldn't make it a habit particularly. It's not really my vibe. What I found is I've done, because I had done a lot of cold approach, that then had beneficial ricochets in terms of other parts of my life, but it wasn't like a conscious thing. I wasn't like thinking, right, how can I game this CEO in order to, find out how he runs his business or something like that. So it's more like a peripheral effect, I think. When is an infill video of you seducing the super fox on the street coming out? When you say the super fox, I'm not sure. Do you have somebody in particular in mind? Listen, I had stuff up on this channel until a while ago, and then I took them down because if you remember, there was some. I mean, it was for a number of reasons, but there was sort of channels dedicated to dating and so on. People were taking that kind of content down. I think things have relaxed a little bit on that end now. I've kept it down personally, but it is available. If you go to my VIP members area, there's a link for that in the description below this video. If you join my VIP members group, then they have access to all that material. If you join Charisma and Dating Academy, you'll also have access to that material. So the material is there. It's not on YouTube at the moment. That's just how it is for various reasons. But yeah, I mean that I've certainly created those sort of videos before. Some people who've been around the channel for a while will know that. Other people who are newer won't, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, I mean it would be great to do some more maybe at some point. But given that the situation with COVID and so on, that has been a bit of a non-starter as well for most of this year. So yeah, and I see you said I'm fairly new to your channel. He says, I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, no, there is that content. I mean, like I say, have a look at the link for my VIP members area. That's below. Have a look at Charisma and Dating Academy. See if you want to get on board with that. Then you will get the content. Aside from that, watch this space. Let's see how things go over the next few months. JD says, hello, Troy. I'm in my early 40s and just came out of a 20-year relationship just before lockdown. Jesus. Have found you and the other All Zero guys content over recent months. 20 years, man. That is, wow. That is a long relationship. Sorry, I'm going to come back to that in a second. I realize how blue-pilled I was, and now with the red pill awareness, what advice would you give with regards to getting back into the game? Well, I mean, don't overthink it. I mean, you just need to get out there and start to interact, and you can do that by trying some day game. You can do, I don't know where you are, what area you're in. You're saying early 40s, maybe, I don't know if you go out as much as you used to go out, but and obviously we've got COVID as well. But you could try a bit of evening game. There are lounges, bars, clubs when they reopen, things like this. And obviously there's online dating as well. So I appreciate that the nighttime stuff might be kind of off the table at the moment, but certainly daytime approach and some online game. You just need to start getting yourself out there. But in the meantime, just keep consuming the content. Don't get like misogynistic, don't get negative and dark and all this kind of thing. I mean, it's not. It's just we have to understand the way things are. But I don't believe that people should be bitter or they should get angry or they should. You just got to accept things as they are. Say, okay, right, I kind of get this now. I understand the dynamics of modern relationships a bit more perhaps than I did before. Okay, fine. But now I want to go out and have a bit of fun. And then just try and keep it light, try and keep it fun, chat to some girls and kind of see what happens. And then, there are lots of things you can do. I mean, you could, I have my VIP members group. You could join that. You could come on to Charisma and Dating Academy, which opens on Friday for 5 days. You can enroll from the 7th to the 11th. And that will teach you all of the game tactics and so on that you need in order to go and ace it when you get out there. Or following the content on this channel and other people's channels. I mean, there's loads and loads of stuff out there, but ultimately you just need to be going in there and, starting to interact again and kind of seeing how things go. And then when you do that, then your sticking points will come up. You'll see what works well, what doesn't work well. And then you can come back and for more advice, for more insight, and just work on it like that, really, I would say. But don't get negative. That's the main thing, because negativity is a real buzzkill. It doesn't do you any favors as far as being out there in the field is concerned. So thank you for that question. That is a comment, I think, relating back to someone else's comment. It worked for Slash from Guns N' Roses throughout the 80s and 90s, have a passion about it, and that's sexy to girls. Doesn't really matter what your passion is. Yeah, I'm pretty on board with that. I think that's correct. Although it does help to understand dynamics as well, social dynamics. James says, do you think joining Toastmasters or getting a sales job is good for game? Yes, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't get a sales job just to be good at game, but yes, it does have a knock-on effect, because I mean, I was working sales for a long time and I'm still really working sales. Charisma and Dating Academy, 7th of August, link below. But yeah, 100%, definitely. Acting classes, it could be good. I mean, I've done improv classes. I've done a couple of improv classes and they were kind of good, quite fun. Anything that gets you talking. But in the end, it's like anything. Jump off the deep end, right? Just go out there into the streets, into the coffee bars, into the bars, start chatting to girls, get rejected, embarrass yourself, go through some humiliating moments, have some fun times, get some good experiences under your belt as well, and you will start to get momentum. That's just the way it is. Or make a load of YouTube videos and podcasts and post them up every day, and then you'll have to learn how to keep talking about stuff as well, and that also really helps. Have you considered moving to Odessa or Kiev? Well, actually, to escape women ruined by the feminist line of the West, it's not worth the effort. Living in the UK, yeah, I mean, I kind of, I agree to some extent. I mean, like, I'm not a massive. The main reason that I've spent a lot of time in the UK is because I'm very sort of like, I still really love London. People have things to say about London. I really like it here. I've got a lot of friends here. I've got a lot of contacts here and stuff. So yeah, I mean, and pre-Brexit and pre-COVID, London is a pretty good centre to get around Europe and so on and so forth. I do go to Eastern Europe quite a bit though, but I have actually considered moving to Kiev. I know people who live in Kiev. It's a pretty cool city. It's a workable kind of a place. It is relatively inexpensive still. So yeah, I mean, who knows? Watch this space. But at the moment, COVID is kind of messing things up. I think we still have to quarantine to go into Ukraine at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. Watch this space. And then eventually, the Electric Lamp says, Odessa and Kiev is about the same as us nowadays in this global marketplace. I don't. Yeah, I don't wholly agree. I think there are still differences. I mean, if you travel from London and then you go to Kiev, then there is still a palpable difference in terms of the way that people behave and the way that the girls are and things like this. But I agree that the direction of travel is in the same direction. And if you look at Poland now, it is a very, very westernized place for the most part, and there isn't I wouldn't say an enormous difference, but there is a bit of a difference. There is still a bit of a difference, and certainly someone like Kiev and Ukraine, I would say more so, and then Russia, even more so. You go to Moscow, you go to St. Petersburg, it is culturally different, and you can feel that when you get off the plane, you start interacting with people. But all of this will change because like it or not, we live in a global society, and the internet has changed everything. And well, depending on what governments choose to do, let's say. But but culture. I mean, I think the direction of travel is, the direction of travel, but it may take longer in some places and whatever. Yeah, there is also a big wage gap for sure. Right. Okay. This is a good one. Brazilianaire Bob. Why is conversation game downplayed when it's such an integral part of charisma? Well, this is true. And actually, we do talk about charisma. We do talk about conversation in Charisma and Dating Academy, but I'm considering doing some kind of a product about conversation specifically. So, and I was talking actually about doing a product about storytelling yesterday, and some people in the chat were saying they were interested in that. I think conversation, we are ripe for a new product, like a book or a short course or something about conversation skills, because you're right, it is absolutely key to this whole thing. I mean, you've got to be able to hold a conversation. You've got to be able to hold a conversation that isn't boring and isn't needy and crap, basically. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy, even for people who practice this stuff and do this stuff a lot. And it's certainly not easy for people who are less experienced. So yes, I think this is absolutely something that we should address, and I'm going to be looking at doing that. Is charm universal or subjective? Adam says, I talk about this in Charisma and Dating Academy, but I believe it's subjective because there are people that you might think are charming, but you still don't buy their BS. And you can appear very charming to one girl, and another girl just thinks you're a slimy wanker. So it is absolutely subjective, and you can't please everybody all of the time, unfortunately. Although you can try. That's not to say that there aren't things that you can learn and there are ways that you can improve, but there's an element of subjectivity in it for sure. Okay, listen, I am gonna cut off, I think. Oh, and Davey, there's an important message here for anybody who's considering getting a dog after we talked about it. Don't get a dog just for picking up girls. There are already too many abandoned dogs out there. Absolutely. I mean, you shouldn't really do anything. You shouldn't make any major life decision just for meeting girls. That's not really the right way to go about it. And especially bringing a poor defenseless animal like a dog into the equation. So no, don't do that. But because it's a lot of work. It's and it's a lot of expense as well. I mean, I was talking to my sister earlier, and she was saying that she just recently had to spend £1,000 on her dog, on getting her dog for some kind of operation that her dog had done. So it's expensive, it's time consuming, there's work involved. So don't do it. But hopefully you weren't thinking of doing it anyway for those reasons. Okay. More Ukraine talk here. The key to Ukraine is to live there and not be like the Turks from India, Turkey, Pakistan who come there for sex tourism, see face control and stuff. Well, I haven't actually. I don't know about Odessa, but Kiev, yes, you do see these guys up and down the main street, and they are. It's quite funny, really. But you can differentiate yourself from those guys. I think girls can see pretty quickly whether you are one of those kind of guys or not. And the key thing, really, I mean, yes, living there is good, but if you don't want to do that, the key thing is to differentiate yourself from being like a sex tourist, because that, you know, that's fine. That's easy enough to do. And girls get it. It's fine, you know, as long as you're not putting out the wrong vibes. The black sheep. What thickness of necktie do you think is best to wear? To be honest, I haven't worn one for such a long time. I'm not sure what is really fashionable at the moment. I would say something somewhat in the middle. You don't want a big kipper one. That looks really 70s-ish. I think also you don't want one of those really skinny ones. So I'd say something somewhat in the middle is the correct thickness to wear. But I haven't worn one for a long time, so I'm not the most up to date on that. And then Ian, big question: how can guys live an adventurous life in general? Take more risks, you know. And I'm saying this for myself as much as anybody else. You have to take risks. You have to throw yourself out there. You have to do weird, crazy shit sometimes, you know? Things that even surprise yourself, because otherwise you get very stuck in a comfort zone. And this can happen to all of us. And it can, and the thing about comfort zones is you can break out of the comfort zone for a bit and then go back into another one. So you've got to keep challenging yourself and keep doing new things, taking different turns, you know, mixing things up. It's just, you know, and it's tough. It gets tough as you get older, but, you know, it's doable. And then I've got to make this really, the final thing, I think, because I have to finish the broadcast soon because it's getting quite late here and I've got to send out an email as well. So join my email list if you want an exclusive video from me tonight talking about charisma and dating. But Jirai says, what's your opinion about asking a woman about her sexual past? I never do it, really. Certainly not in the early stages of anything. It's just not, it's counterproductive. It makes you look chody and, you know, and you don't really want to know the answers anyway. I mean, because here's the thing, right? So when, for example, when I met my girl who I'm with at the moment, for a long time, we were very, very casual. We were just seeing each other. We were sleeping together. And that was it. And there wasn't really anything more to it than that. So I didn't inquire about her sexual past at that stage because I was in the lover role. Okay. And so therefore, by definition, I shouldn't care about her sexual past because it's irrelevant, you know, because I'm not there for the long-term commitment anyway. Now, then what happened, and this is the pattern that generally occurs with relationships that I've got into, is that over time, we became more of a thing. It became more regular. We were spending more time together. We liked hanging out, and then it became more of a relationship. But by that stage, because of just your conversations and just hanging out, you should have a better idea about her sexual past. You know, it's never really a great conversation to sit down and go, right, so how many how many guys have you been with? Because she's probably not going to tell the truth. If she does tell the truth, you probably don't want to hear it. You don't want too many of those details. Do you know what I mean? And if she is a raging if she's put it about a lot, and that is something that you don't want because you're looking for something long term with her and you feel that will compromise the relationship, then that will out itself in time. But I would strongly advise against sitting down and making it a big conversation, because it's really awkward and it's a turn off, and it's just not a cool thing to do. As Lucas says, why would you ask that? Brazilian Air Bob says, frame and conversation game go hand in hand. I've not seen a video covering this in great detail. Okay, we'll watch this space. That is definitely something I can look at doing. Anyway, listen, guys, that is it for tonight. I'm going to come back and do another one of these tomorrow. It may be earlier tomorrow, although this time actually seems quite good in terms of people coming in. If you want to leave in the chat just an idea of is this time good for you, or would you prefer it earlier, or does it not matter? If you can give me just a vague time that works quite well for you, EST, you know, what time is it now? EST. It's like 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. So now, if it's 7 p.m. EST now, is 7 p.m. EST good for you? Is say 6 p.m. EST good for you? 5 p.m. EST good for you? Or could you go back to 11 a.m. EST or 12 p.m. EST? So if you've got an idea of I'm using Eastern Standard Time, if you could give me an idea of a time, just put it in the chat. That would be great. But yeah, anyway, let's cut this one for now. I'll be back tomorrow at some point, and we will do some more Q&A. So have more questions lined up, and it will be good to get into some more stuff tomorrow for sure. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Remember, Charisma and Dating Academy opens on Friday. It's open for 5 days. You can enroll on it for 5 days, and then we close the carts. You can't get in then, but then a week or so later, we will start the live Zoom webinars. Okay, it's a 10-hour video course that will teach you everything you need to know, taking you from chode to Chad, becoming that natural guy who's just good with women without having to really think too much about technical stuff and details, although we do cover all of that in the game section. Yeah, check it out. It will be available from this Friday until Monday night at midnight EST. All right, guys, many thanks. I'll see you again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.